I, in addressing this topic, took, I suppose, a very personal approach to it, because I think place is something that is very personal. And just as way as introduction before I sort of get going, this is very much about local, and I think local places are what are really important to people. Because of this personal, it's sort of to do with being a migrant, as I am, and also to do with change in the city as well, which I think is important. So this is where I'm from originally. I've been in London for about 10 years now. And when I tell people this, they kind of say, oh, I've been to New Zealand, it's amazing. Why are you in London? You know? And I think everyone would expect me to say, you know, this is my favourite place. And in many ways it is, but I think it's, as much as it says 100% pure, it's not necessarily so. This is my home. So even if New Zealand's a natural beauty, I'm from the big city, 1.5 million people of Auckland, and it is beautiful. You get views of the water. It's on an isthmus, 50 volcanic cones. You know, it's a very dynamic place as well. But as the next slide will show, it's also mass suburbia. It doesn't have public transport systems. You know, it's a different model than maybe we're used to now in the UK in terms of urban environments. And as a planner, I needed to explore that, and that's partly the reason, I suppose, for moving away, and to sort of get to understand different places. And I suppose, you know, as you start to travel, your profession is there as well. So new home. I think this is what most people in New Zealand think we live in London. And it's this sort of nitty-grittiness, which is obviously what we all experience every single day. But I suppose for me it is about that sort of high-density living. It's about proper public transport. It's about the activities that go on. But my favourite place that I'm going to talk about is the River Lee, and this is near my new home in London. And I think for me it's part of that spaces that you can find your own time in. And this is Zone 2 London. And most people in New Zealand would not believe me that that's what we have here. And I think one of the most amazing things about London is these open spaces. And you have these nitty-gritty urban environments, but then you have this urban oasis as well. And I go running along here, and you know, some mornings, you know, the sun will be shining and there'll be a line of swans gliding down the river, and you just go, what? I'm in London. And then I turn around and run back, and you see Canary Wharf and the Olympic Park, and you know, you really do remember you're in London. But it's a very special part of London. And it's a very active space. You can't see the number of people that are along here because they're all running or walking or cycling or rowing or on their houseboats. And you know, I just think that you know, the number of different people that use it, it's kind of a bit wild and informal. It's not like the sort of the very green parks that you can have around. And I suppose the point I wanted to make is I just think in terms of London, just really understanding how important the green space is. And how important it is for people living in a city to get away from all the the hubbub of the city and find the space. And in the future planning of London, is there enough open space for the increase in population? The planning standards require you to put in a few pocket parks here and there, but it's these much larger spaces that are important. And now the place I don't like as much. This is Pembury Circus. It's a development going up at present. It's near Hackney Down Station. It's very well located. And it's not actually the development itself that I don't like particularly. It's a mixed-use development. It's it ticks all the right boxes. It's done with a social housing provider, but it's the marketing. So all across this, suddenly you had these huge buildings going up. But the ringmaster to sort of welcome you in. And there was actually the slogans used, more land wanted. And I just don't think, something went wrong here. The development's called Pembury Circus, and the branding guy just went overboard. And this is what the big point for me here is that, just the lack of recognition of how it fit into a local community. and really, you know, this sort of branding, and this wasn't the only obscenity that was put all over this branding, but really sort of hit a nerve with the local community. And I suppose what I wanted to talk about a bit more was just regeneration in general. And I'm very aware of regeneration in Hackney, and a lot of it has been really good. If you look at some of these areas in East London and just see the deprivation and poverty that they were in sort of not only even 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, and further. But, you know, it's the hipsters and the high-rise buildings that's very much this pop-up cafe culture. And years ago we were talking about Clone Town. And actually what maybe the recession has provided is all these local businesses, which are great. And some, you know, I go to these cafes and the gastro pubs and, you know, Street Feast or Dalton Curve Garden, and they're amazing spaces, but sometimes I wonder, they're targeted at me, you know, a middle-class white person, and the regeneration is maybe about those local communities. And I've been working in Whitechapel, and I've just been interested that Tower Hamlets have kind of, in a way, rejected the cafe culture regeneration, and they're very, very focused on their local community and how it might benefit that. And I suppose it's just questioning how we do regeneration in the future and what's the right approach. And I don't know that either way is necessarily right, but it's a question.